Okay, so now we have the episode interface. I have to say, as conceptual episodes go, this one is actually a very interesting idea. Mm, as a person watching the episode as a teenager, I thought several aspects of the way it was played out were incredibly stupid, though, and just didn't feel like the way Starfleet would do things. I know that's a bit of a subjective criticism, but it was one that I've had about the episode for years. Literally since the time I first saw it. Anyways, so moving on. Two main things about this episode that are possibilities if you're going to use it in a role playing game. One, you could just run the whole thing off as a kind of like a logic puzzle episode where you have a group of players who have to figure out how to solve the logic puzzle, whatever. Thing is, that would need the players to basically have the roles of the Enterprise D crew, which could work, but a little too on the nose for my liking, because it's one of those things where it would kind of sort of hinge on them either knowing everything about the episode so that you don't have to explain everything, or going in not knowing anything and trying to figure it out as they went along. Mm, two different ways of writing it. Very different ways of writing it. What do I think would personally be a better idea? Using parts of this in a different setting, because like I said, I didn't personally think the story in this was actually a good one. It's also apparently one of those script ideas that they had batted around several times, and then they're like, you know what, we have nothing better to do. Hey, let's tell a story where we stick in Geordi's mother, because we haven't done a story about Geordi's family yet. Sure, why not? That is actually a big thing, though, is that, you have that episode with Picard having this guy who might be his son, but probably isn't. And then you have talking about his family and so on. And yeah, there's several different episodes that had gone about various crews, families, and stuff. And they'd never done one about Geordi before, apparently. Thing is, I would leave all of that stuff out. As a serialized TV show, having Geordi's family being mentioned and talked about in a episode, cool, great idea. In a role-playing game, you're probably going to talk about your actual characters, not the canon characters in that regard. So you would probably be doing something more akin to, like what is player X's family, and so on and so forth. Now, having Geordi as a kind of like replacing Geordi with one of your player characters, and then using this to examine theirs. Quite frankly, I just don't like the way they used Geordi's mother in the episode. Oh boy. So let's move on and look at all of that stuff. The first things first is the Enterprise is investigating what happened to the USS Raman. Do we know what category of ship it is? No. Unusually for TNG, very, very unusually for TNG, in the episode, this is the only thing they actually show about the USS Raman. In episode, this is the only exterior view we get. Hilarious, but, you know, to be honest, from a TTRPG standpoint, small science vessel is really all you matters. And also, you can fill in the blanks at will. Anyway, So, whatever you feel like using for your story, go for it. Now, there is a few other things here. It was said to only have a crew of 7. Also, for some reason, the crew are wearing these uniforms, which to me look more like Starfleet Academy uniforms than the uniforms you see on the crew of the Enterprise. Why is that? I don't know. Not something that gets explained in the episode or even mentioned. You just see them wearing some uniform that doesn't really match, and there's literally no mention or discussion of it as far as I can remember. It's just like that for some reason. Which, to be fair, even in TNG era, not all ships had the same uniform, so whatever. Does it have a specific meaning? Not that I know of, which makes me curious, but whatever. You doing your story, you can have whatever. But having it be like a plot point could be a thing. Because, as we are going to get to later, there is a reason why you might want to have that as a plot point. Now, Margine 7. Margine. Margine. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that, and quite frankly, you probably would be making up your own name anyway, so you don't need to worry about this one if you're going to make up your own. So, 7th planet in the star system, kind of Neptune-like apparently, and the atmosphere was weird, and it has subspace distortions. The exact specifics of what made the atmosphere strange and why it has subspace distortions... The subspace distortions are quite important, though. Yeah, because there's a native species that lives here that are a subspace race. Yeah. Now, the atmosphere being unusual could be a side effect of the subspace distortions because, chemical processes getting changed by stuff and reasons. To be honest, that's about all we need to know about the planet and the only things that they actually said about the planet, because the most of it was actually talking about the USS Hera and barely mentioned the existence of the planet, except as the location where the ramen was stuck. Anyway, though. Yeah. So, the plot of the episode has them make first contact with these things. How many of them exist in total, we don't know. More than one, because this one here is basically taking on the role of an emissary and pretending to be LaForge's mother because apparently they're unable to just jump off of the ship. They need the ship to go down so that they can get off safely. Of course, going down without repairing the ship first will destroy it, and they can't repair the ship without having it move too far away from the planet for these beings to survive. And these beings are so freaking destructive that it's physically impossible for them to attempt to operate the ship. And when they attempted to talk to the crew of the ship, their attempt at communication killed them all. Yeah, that's the reason why the crew of the ramen's dead. These guys tried to talk to them and somehow accidentally killed them in the process. Now, the only reason Geordi survives talking to them is because he has the probe as an interface and thus is not directly communicating with them. However, he gets injured by the process, and that gets weird. Because, the episode uses this screwball analogy of signal gain coming from a microphone as a metaphor to explain how Geordi gets burned by a sensory overload because of the fact that the suit that he's wearing to control the probe has the sensors in it just turn up too high because of the fact that he's... That's the best way to put this. These subspace beings are just fundamentally destructive, and a human being coming into contact with one of them directly would be severely injurious to the human. And the suit attempted to simulate that. Why? Design defect. Because it's apparently a theoretical, or not theoretical, but experimental prototype that in this particular case, they were only able to get it to kind of sort of work because of Geordi's cybernetic implants, allowing him to mentally interface with the suit, which is both a downside and an upside at the same time. As a race idea, the subspace beings are not something I personally think is a bad idea. The way they got used in the episode was a very awkward first contact sort of thing, where things happened, stuff that was not a good thing happened. Also, we don't actually know what the long-term fallout of this would be, and that is actually a third thing you could do, is that having the players go and look at the fallout and long-term side effects of this encounter because of the way it ends. See, the USS Ramen was destroyed. See, their solution is to use the probe to take the ramen down to an altitude that's safe for the subspace beings to get off the ship and go back home. Okay, cool. Problem is, in the process, the ramen is destroyed. What effect did having the ramen explode in deep inside this alien planet's atmosphere have on that alien planet's atmosphere? Yeah, we don't know, and the episode doesn't bother telling us because they'd already see. The plot here is that the probe is the only way that they're able to communicate with these aliens, and then when the ship gets to the point where they can get off, Geordi basically just like waves goodbye to them via the probe, and then the connection is lost by the ship failing. And well, the whole like sensory overload thing was on the verge of killing Geordi or something because the people who designed the interface, what's the best way to put this? Didn't think it through very well. Oh yeah, that's another thing, is that part of the reason why they were turning up the sensory settings on the probe so much is that Geordi kept saying that he was barely able to feel anything. Uh, uh, which is kind of like what you would have if you had like a microphone with a weak audio signal. It's like you would turn up the gain so that you had an adequate volume. The thing is that turning up the gain like that with a microphone, you're not going to have it spontaneously give you a catastrophically loud noise unless the gain changes, which is potentially what the issue was here, although the episode doesn't actually explain it very well, is that also it doesn't explain why he's having the signal get attenuated to the point of making it weak and hard to see things. And why is having the weak signal such a strain on him? That we don't get. See, that's the part about that that doesn't make sense, is that turning up the signal gain so that he can properly see things is apparently causing severe stress on his brain's ability to perceive things because of the what we don't know. Like it's like the writers had the idea that the signal that he was getting from the probe was more static than signal, and that the static was overloading his brain, but he needed it to be um, turned up so that he would get enough signal in order to be able to interact with things. But the static was like this catastrophic noise in the back of his mind that was on the verge of killing him. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't particularly like that part of the episode, and that is actually the thing about the episode that really, really pissed me off, is their volume analogy with the sensory feeds coming from the suit. And they never do the like. Also, is that why are they having a suit anyways? Like, oh yeah, see, like here's the interface drone. Okay, the probe has like tractor beams to let it interact with things. When you see the actual episode, because of the fact that LeVar Burton is acting as the probe and just like going around as if Geordi is actually on board the USS Raman, you see Geordi just like touch things and like, oh, hey, here's a computer panel, touch, 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 touch. When in reality, it's the probe using a tractor beam to interact with buttons. Yeah, that got hand waved to hell, and I didn't particularly find that part of it to be all that good. Let's put it that way. Um, I do like the idea of the probe. The actual idea of the probe is actually quite good. It's just that the control interface on it is one of the most sci-fi nonsense bullshit ideas I've ever seen. Why can't you just like hook it to the holodeck? Why do you need a interface suit to give you fake tactical stimuli that are dangerous to your health? No, seriously though, it's like having it in a holodeck would also let the other people around see what's going on, and of course, it's presumably would be a safer way of blah blah blah. And if you really wanted to have the pseudo danger thing, you could have the holodeck fail to properly uh, interpret the data, and like, oh hey, it's a flaming thing. Oh no, it's an actual fire, and you touched it. Yeah, you could do that. It would make more sense than having the suit overload and burn your hands. Like, seriously. How does this suit have the ability? Because, like, also, his hands aren't even covered by the suit. Somehow the suit burns his hands, even though they're not even covered by the suit. What? Like, physically burns his hands. Anyway. But again, the idea of the probe is a good one. There's a lot of different ways you could use that idea of technology, and I probably wouldn't even use the same probe. I would go with like someone came up with a different, better probe, and we're going to use that one instead. Because, quite frankly, this one is not something that I personally consider to be a well-designed piece of equipment. But as presented in the episode, the whole thing kind of forgivable because of the fact that it's not proven technology It is something that is more theoretical and experimental than a well-tested device. Anyway, oh yeah, that's the other thing. There is one. Oh yeah, random alien nonsense cultural stuff. It's funny. I mean, to be honest, the whole idea of like having poetry with pauses in it makes sense. It's just that this race apparently took it to an extreme degree that most other races think is moronic. Let's see here. Oh yeah, another thing that they threw in as a possible explanation for how the USS Hera could have gotten trapped at this location, even though the USS Hera was supposed to be 200 light years away. Oh wait, no, sorry, 300 light years away. Is that they may possibly have had their warp coil accidentally create some sort of a subspace funnel. Um, this is one of those things where I stop and scratch my head, and it's like, why have we never seen a single episode of Star Trek have a starship intentionally create a subspace funnel? Like we see one in one of the movies, well, TMP to be specific. But um anyway though, again, it's one of those things where you could use it as a plot device if you wanted to. And oh yeah, that's right. There is one more thing I need to talk about. The fate of the USS Hera. The USS Hera was supposedly a Nebula class ship. Most of the crew was Vulcans. It was commanded by Silva LaForge, and in the episode, no one actually knows what the heck happened to it. The ending of the episode, they basically say that it's been days since anyone has seen it, and they've had other ships trying to figure out what happened to it, and no one knows. Apparently, the book Indistinguishable from Magic explains what happened to it. It gets salvaged. Some of the crew survived, not the captain. And the ship was repaired. Then later on in the Star Trek Online timeline, it gets blown up by Orion pirates in 2409. Yeah, well, anyway. Actually, you know what? It's great. I click here. What does it say here about it? Destroyed by a pirate. Okay. USS Challenger found evidence that the Hera had been transported into deep space by a form of natural quantum slipstream. Oh, okay. But yeah, the captain wasn't one of the survivors, apparently. Yeah, Silva LaForge, being impersonated by the whatever life form. Nope, she's dead. Okay, that's a thing about the life forms though, is that these beings seemingly have a form of natural communication that is akin to telepathy, but a key aspect of it is reading minds. Like, it uses the same idea that they've come up with for the more uh, erratic and chaotic kinds of telepathy, where the members of a telepathic race, such as the Karn, they just like naturally listen to each other's thoughts to such a heavy degree that the whole like um, idea of not reading other people's minds is just alien to them. And in the case of these guys, they're actually able to um, read thoughts from humans. It's just that if they do it in person, it'll kill them. Don't ask me how that happens. Although this is apparently what they actually look like. It's like subspace flames. That's what they actually look like. So, does it like cook the person's mind if they like do it directly or something? The way that those bodies were posed, the idea that their brains had been cooked from the inside and not, like being just like burned alive. You know what? That would be believable. It's it just like heats up your brain, and then your brain is just like, nope, I'm dead now. Okay, that's another thing about these. These beings were unable to figure out how to operate the controls of the USS Raman. They cannot fly the starship. Even though they, stole whatever memories from the crew, they don't actually explain in the episode how much of the memories of the crew that they were actually able to steal before killing them. It's entirely possible that they barely got anything from the initial attempts at communication before killing them, because they don't take on the appearance of Geordi's mom until like the second or third time Geordi runs into one of them. The first time, Geordi just sees this raging flame approaching him, and he's like, "Ah, run away!" And that's actually the incident when he gets burned, is because the flame gets close to the probe, and his hand, which isn't even a part of the probe, touches the flame, and it's like, "Oh no, I'm burned now." Yeah. So, maybe their initial attempt at communicating with the crew of the Raman is why they can't figure out how to operate the ship, is because they've never seen Federation technology before, and they got almost no information about anything from the crew of the Raman while attempting to communicate, because the members of the crew of the Raman died almost instantly. And, the level of burning on Geordi's hand is the level of burning on the inside of the brains of all of the crew of the Raman. Maybe. We don't really know, which is kind of a bummer, but whatever. Yeah, lots of things you could do with this. I would not do this story as is, though. Well, that was long. Anyway, see you guys later.